1, go. Okay. So I'm Raikou Rider. What the heck?
I'm CrashMcCloud.
Something's wrong here with my wow. This is weird. I'm actually gonna reset my console because something's very wrong with my
You need me to stop too then?
No, don't, no. Keep going. Keep going.
Nah, I'm going. I'm just asking.
Okay, there we go. There we go. That was really weird. Okay, so in any case, I'm Raikou Rider, and
I'm CrashMcCloud.
And hope you enjoyed tonight's Donkey Kong Country 3 race. I know the commentary situation is a little bit strange. Because of the lack of commentators, the two of us are just going to guide you through our own race.
Try to play off each other as much as we can. This is actually my very first race and my very first time commentating.
This is my first race of my very first race of the tournament. A lot of you might know me if you've watched me play this game before, that I'm more of a 103% main. But this time you're going to see the any percent category. The any percent category in the first two worlds has a whole bunch of developer-intended warps. There's one in each of the first 5 stages of the game.
In the first two worlds.
Correct. So the game doesn't really begin until the boss of World 2. And thankfully, because this is any percent, we don't have to worry about coin routing, about any bonus games, or anything of that sort.
No, it's straight run to the finish of every stage.
Which is a nice... It can be a nice relief if you do a lot of 103% to go to any, but just don't work on both categories at the same time, because they'll really... The conflicting muscle memory will get you, and I'm actually kind of curious how many bonus stages I'm going to go into this run by mistake. Crash and I actually did a practice race just before this, and I went into 3 bonus stages.
I went into 1 myself, and that was the one in 7-1.
That one's... We'll get to that one when we actually get to World 7.
Yeah,
but there is one
later, but still.
There is a particular bonus stage that is very difficult to avoid. If you're not paying attention, of course.
I'm in World 1 boss right now. Belcha, pretty free boss. The only problem is that you can soft lock him if you don't know what you're doing properly, and I'm really screwing it up right now.
I actually had some graphical issues with my game earlier, so I actually had to reload after about 20 seconds in, so I'll be behind you, but hopefully we can make this a little bit closer going into World 3.
Yeah, you can get Belcha in 2 cycles. The second you miss a single throw, though, you have to have an additional cycle thrown in. I believe if you miss 3 of them, then it turns into another cycle after that.
Oh, speaking of missed cycles, this is not going well.
Came out of that with a 314. And we're starting World 2 now, for me. 5 more warp barrels. This one, they have you... You go a little bit into each levels for the first couple of stages, and afterwards they're all at the beginning.
340 from World 1, which is... Considering the restart that I had to do at the beginning, that would be the equivalent of about a 310, which still is not very good. An extra cycle on Belcha costs something like 10 to 12 seconds.
And it's somewhere around there, yeah. I came out of that with 17 extra seconds. I know it's kind of dumb to have to explain this, but if you don't hit those 2 mice in 2-2, you will miss this warp barrel.
Oh, I unfortunately took the coin of shame in 2-1. You can actually roll into that warp barrel in 2-1 without collecting that coin. It's no big deal. It's nothing but swag to dodge it.
I think I avoided it. I wasn't sure. I wasn't paying attention to that.
So because that warp barrel is so far over to the right side in Riverside, you actually need to delay a little bit before your throw. in order to actually make it in there. Now, in the 103% category, a surprising number of these warp barrels get used.
Yeah, as for 103 runners, I believe you guys go back into the stage and then exit out after collecting coins.
Several times. For several stages, that's... And then there are other cases where we actually just use a warp barrel to get to the end of the stage more quickly and then double back. So after this final warp barrel, we're going to be coming up to what could be the first real separation, or the first real potential for separation in the race. That being what I like to affectionately call Reset Spider.
That's what I'm on right now, and I got the first 2 hits fairly easily.
So I'm gonna be going for a strategy that's slightly slower than the optimal strategy by about 3 seconds, but is a lot more consistent.
I got a gold on Spider.
And I was standing too far left.
I got Spider in pretty much 1 cycle. All hits were done on the first time. Third and fourth hit on that boss, you kind of want to let the screen scroll a little bit. That's pretty much my visual cue to throw the barrel.
And then as soon as you miss 1 cycle, all of his patterns get... It seems like all of his patterns change. So it can be very difficult to recover from a missed hit.
I think they more or less stay the same. It depends on their spot on the screen. They could be a little bit more to the right or the left.
Good recovery, at least.
I'm heading to 3-1 myself, or as I call it, the cheese ball factory.
8 frames of cheese balls. So the reason why I like to call them 8 frames of cheese balls is because the fireballs will damage you for 8 frames after they touch the ground. Then after that 8th frame passes, they are actually in front of the Kongs on the screen, so you can safely pass behind them.
First real big skip of the run, too, in this stage, too. Towards the end, there's going to be groups of these birds still throwing cheese balls at you. On the third group, I'm going to sacrifice Kitty in order to get onto the final rope a couple of seconds ahead of time.
That skip saves about 6 seconds. Although it does make the end a little bit scary, because you're going to do the end of the stage as Sola Dixie. But this is where the run really begins. No more warps. Gotta play every level now.
And the heart rates rise.
Mostly as intended, but some...
Here's that skip right here. Got it, no problem.
Nice.
It's really hard to squeeze between those last 2 cheese balls there at the end of the level.
Oh, it's very difficult to do.
And no hate on Rare whatsoever, because I absolutely love their games, but 2 auto-scrollers in a row, I kind of take that decision into question.
A little bit, yeah. Although, to be fair, your first time through the game, Demolition Drain Pipe is not easy if you don't know what's coming.
No, especially at the jump towards the end with the G coin on it.
Oh, nice! I got the full version at the end of Cheeseball Factory.
Nice.
Sweet.
Oh, and I just leaped right into a pipe because I wasn't paying attention. Alright, I just grabbed that checkpoint for safety just in case I end up losing Kitty Kong on accident.
So hopefully I can show you where all the hidden bear coins are in this level. They're very important for Hundo. I already missed one.
Now for Hundo, I think you need around 60-ish bear coins, is it?
55.
55.
There's actually a new route for 103% where we get all of the bear coins before World 5, or before World 6 rather, so you can buy the mirror while you're up there the first time, and it saves something like 26 seconds to do it that way.
I am through pipeline. Fairly unscathed, actually. I was surprised I did that.
Once you've played the level about 500 times, you really shouldn't be dying in it. What's more likely to happen is one of us, namely me, is going to go into a bonus by muscle memory. Or collect the DK coin by muscle memory. Alright, so there is a trick that I am going to go for in this level that, if I hit it, is going to look amazing.
I wish I could see it right now.
That's what the VOD's for.
Good point.
So, I'm not going to try to explain it while it's going on, because it can be a little difficult to do. Oh, nice, I got it.
I have to go back and look at that later.
Okay, so what I did there was I actually tricked the game into thinking I was controlling both Kongs, and when you pinch the camera between a Kong and a wall, it sends the Kong upward at a rate of 8 pixels per frame, and it actually breaks the auto-scrolling of a level, and lets you get into that bonus stage a little bit faster. Unfortunately, it is slower for any percent by 1 second, but it is absolutely worth it in a race situation for the swag. Also, this is one of those great. The reason why one reason why I like DKC3 so much is because you get to save the frames and the animals.
Oh, here we go with that.
So every time you kill a sneak in this level, it wastes 2 frames of lag. So if you can avoid as many of them as possible in this level, you can wind up saving like 0.2 or 0.3, which will take any time savings we can get in an autoscroller. So is this what King K. Rool did with the Kong's banana horde in the first game? Sold all of the Kong's bananas and then used them to buy this giant saw? Because I imagine
you kind of had to spend some of the bananas. I mean, we kind of put the zing stings in extinction.
I imagine this saw had to have cost King K. Rool a lot of money. Let me see if I can do a little bit of off-screen work here. Nope.
Okay, I am now in the second factory stage without Dixie. This is an issue. Barrel factory, as I call it.
Alright, so in this level, whenever you enter one of these auto-fire barrels, you actually have to wait for both Kongs to enter the barrel in order to be able to use it. And there are 11 such barrels in this level, and each of those having 2 Kongs entering them wastes about half a second. So,
I was about to say it's probably a really bad idea for me to be running with 2 Kongs right now, but for safety's sake, that's why I'm doing it.
I completely spaced on that DK barrel, so I guess I'm doing the rest of the stage with 2 Kongs. But I think it still ends up saving a second to do the first half this way. But typically you want to be doing this level with solo Dixie because it also enables some cycle skips on these bazookas. They're very dangerous to go for, though, because if you take a death in this level, it's very, very punishing because the midpoint is out of the way.
As you were just saying that, I died.
Ouch!
I'm all the way back at the start.
Ouch, I'm so sorry.
Oh no, it's all good.
That is an awful death. I would not wish a death on anybody in that stage.
Okay, that was an interesting death.
Oh, and Algernon is Algernon is pointing out in chat, proof that DKC3 is objectively the best of the series is that you get to save the frames and the animals. You don't have to pick.
Is that true though, considering how many animal buddies we sacrifice?
Point. So, in Logi Labyrinth, your Kongs move at half speed.
Oh,
so any mistake that you make costs double.
Speaking of mistakes, I just picked up shoes. No idea how I just did that. That's an interesting mistake to make.
Oh, we'll see shoes later.
Everyone got a preview of him right there.
So if I take a hit going for this, I'm probably gonna jump in the bonus barrel. Okay. See if we can get Vine Clip. That would be nice. Oh, just off. Dang.
See, had I done this stage the way I normally do it, this is one of the most fun stages, at least movement-wise, in my opinion.
My favorite stage, I will point out when we get there, as far as movement goes. Because we haven't gotten there yet. So, unfortunately, I did not hit Vine Clip, so I'm going to need to take the end of the stage a little bit slow as I'm Solo Kitty. But we made it through all the same. Dying is a real penalty on this stage as well. Anyway, I am at Tin Can, and a Tin Can is the big difference between you and Jay here. And the strategy for this is a little bit challenging, so I'm going to need to focus for this fight. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making use of infinite team throws in midair to be able to skip cycles on this guy.
Is that version locked or is that just straight US?
That is straight U. And unfortunately, this fight is not going very well. The fight should already be over by now. So this is going to be really awkward. If this is even a 3-cycle, this will be a miracle.
This is going to be dangerous.
Yuck.
I'm flying up the pipe with the bees right now. I'm a little far off to the right.
That's too bad.
That's a huge risk right there, too, because I only have one Kong to try and make it past those 2 red bees. I should have Dixie left? No, I don't. I have Kitty right now.
Alright, that's Tin Can down, so we pick up our first ski. That's half of what we need to get into the final hub of the game. But we got one more world to go. Now, Cotton Top Cove is actually supposed to be World 3, but we do Mechanos first for several reasons.
It's also listed in the instruction manual as World 3, even though its position is 4.
In the official player's guide, it's World 4 as well, which is really interesting. So, Cotton Top Cove has a lot of underwater levels, and in these water levels, it's very, very easy to lose time without even knowing it. Just because of the way you round corners is very, very important. You want to cut the corners as close as possible without actually bonking into them. And there are going to be some very tight squeezes that we do between the coral and the bazas. Some of which are actually pixel-perfect fits guided by the wall. So they're not as difficult as they look, but if you're even slightly off, you will take damage.
Just about to finish up Tin Can myself. I'm on the 4th hit.
And also, if I may ask, which version are you running? Are you running US?
Yes, US with French text.
Yeah, so in this case, both of us are running US. So I don't know if I really need to touch on the differences between US and Japanese. They're pretty significant differences.
And I normally do run on Japanese with hardware. For this race sake, though, I am running my emulator.
So
and I can't find my SNES cables.
It's actually kind of silly that neither one of us are actually playing on original hardware this race. I'm actually playing on Wii Virtual Console, which for a while was believed to be the fastest version, and then Claude decided to do a whole bunch of donkey science and prove us wrong. So we're in Rocket Barrel Ride now. In this level, and a lot of the waterfall levels, you're going to see a lot of vertical movement, especially damage boosts. There's going to be 2 that save a pretty significant amount of time in this stage.
Entering Cotton Top Cove right now. I don't know how to do the infinite tag throw. That's why my tin can was a little bit longer than his was.
And those team throws against Tin Can, they take a lot of practice. They take hours and hours of practice to even get somewhat consistent at. It's one of the hardest things to learn in the game.
I thought I could swim under that lockjaw.
I actually missed a trick there. What I wanted to do was I wanted to try to actually dump Kitty, because in this next level, Creeping Clasps, having 2 Kongs causes a ton of lag. So what I'm going to do is pretty much dump Kitty at the first moment that's convenient and never pick him back up for the rest of the level. It does make the level dangerous because you don't have any room for mistakes, but it saves entire seconds worth of lag. DKC3 really pushed the Super Nintendo to its limits, and it shows.
So I believe this came out after Mario 64, did it not?
This came out after the Nintendo 64, yes. I want to say that this was the second to last first-party game that was released for the SNES.
You're probably right on it. Really close to the end of its life cycle, though.
I missed that roll. Now, rolling rhythm is one of the biggest parts of general movement. You move at a slightly faster speed when doing rolls, but you also want to cancel your roll by doing a jump before it actually expires, otherwise you lose all of your momentum. And getting that rhythm down is probably the most complicated part of basic movement in this game. And you want to be able to do that as much as possible. See you later, Ellie.
Oh, my input lagged right there pretty hard.
Ellie not nearly used as much in this category as in other categories.
I believe we use her once on intention, as against this world's boss, and then I think we optionally use her in Animal Antics.
Correct. There is a damage boost off of this B that you can go for, but I'm not going to be going for it. It's actually very tight getting across that ledge with a damage boost, but it does save a significant amount of time.
Gonna be losing Kitty towards the end of this stage here, because as he was explaining before, the next level greatly reduces lag if you don't have him. And I missed that opportunity to lose him, so I'm just going to lose him on the first enemy of the next level.
It's not actually specifically Dixie or specifically Kitty in that stage, it's 2 Kongs.
I know, I just say Kitty because he's generally the one that we lose anyway.
Also, time to feed your fish. So in this stage, what we want to do is we need to keep Nibble nice and blue and fed, and not swim into lurchins. But Nibbla's movement is very erratic, so it can be difficult to predict exactly where you are based on just based on how you've played the level, because since your movement's going to be slightly different every time, you just won't ever be able to predict where Nibbla is.
He has 4 levels throughout the entire stage. He'll always start out blue, which means he's fed enough. After that, he'll go purple, so you do have a little bit of extra time with that. Once he goes orange, though, that's when you want to feed him, otherwise he's going to take a bite out of you on the 4th cycle.
I did not feed my fish properly and lost a Kong. But that's another one of those levels where you can lose a lot of time just from simple movement, from rounding corners and whatnot. So now it's time for everybody's favorite resident sleeper boss. And the only time you'll see Ellie in any percent. If you like Ellie the Elephant, go play 103%. She gets used a lot. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up Ellie's trunk with the waterfall. And then just hold R and then up and right. And that will actually allow you to defeat Squirt in the optimal amount of time every cycle.
You can lose a lot of time in that boss. It's generally supposed to be free, but I had a pretty bad mistake with it in practice, where being on the last cycle, I accidentally jumped off the map.
I did not get optimal ski grab. So optimal ski grab is where you grab the ski as soon as it spawns and land on the top right ledge. It saves something like 0.15.
You also want to really avoid dropping down the pit after grabbing the ski as well. It doesn't necessarily soft lock it, but it delays the load.
It does. It does because the game waits for... I believe the way it operates is it waits for your Y coordinate to reach the minimum. So we're coming up on 5-1 Crevice Creepers, and this is where Dixie is the star of the show. She moves very, very quickly up horizontal ropes, just because she only has, I believe, 2 frames of animation for grabbing a horizontal rope, as opposed to 8 with Kitty.
Crevice Creepers is also my favorite stage.
Oh,
best movement in that level, in my opinion.
It is absolutely incredible to watch a top player play this stage. But it's still not the stage with my favorite movement.
Have we come up to your favorite stage yet?
Nope. It's coming up soon, though.
I run that now on Nibbler. I can pretty much just avoid him for the rest of the stage and swim right to the end, as long as he doesn't pick up another barnacle, as I call him.
And the way to quickly go down vertical ropes is just roll into them. You won't grab them that way. Sorry guys, no sled skip. So on the SNES version, it's actually possible to skip the sled in Tearaway Toboggan. It involves a couple of very precise. It involves a precise damage boost and a very precise jump. But you can actually make it into this level as the Kongs. Obviously, it's significantly slower to do this, but that's actually how we discovered where most of the bear coins are in this stage, and it significantly impacted the bear coin route for 103%.
It's weird how you can skip the toboggan in that stage, but you can't skip Ellie in World 8.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit unusual. The reason why you can't skip Ellie in World 8 is because the Ellie barrel actually resets the scroll bit. Whereas there's no scroll bit with this sled for whatever reason. Not quite sure why. Alright, now that we're out of Auto-Scroller Alley, we can come into a level that I am very happy this isn't 103%, because this level is amazing in any percent and terrible in 103%.
Okay, I got stuck on the world map. Trying to get my jet ski and I got stuck.
Boats are the hardest part of the game. Seriously. Like, optimizing boats is so hard. So we're in Barrel Drop Bounce now, and we're going to skip roughly a third of this level with team throws and some other creative ways to get around this level, including what we call BDB skip, which is one of the most difficult skips in the game. And it's very much worth learning, because if you can nail this on the first try, it saves 25 seconds. And I nailed it. That alone cuts out roughly a quarter of the level.
I tried it during practice as well. I was having trouble with it.
Pretty much perfect. So now we're moving on to KSK, which is, I believe, the only level in any percent where you actually have to use shoes. A lot of people like to call this Web Woods because of using shoes for the entire level, but it's much easier than Web Woods because you actually have solid ground to stand on.
I was about to say, it's a lot more forgiving than what Web Woods is.
Exactly, because you often just lose a Kong instead of losing a life. Another note that we would like to make for those of you who play DKC2 and try to transition to this game, instant web platforms in DKC2 do not work the same way in DKC3. But in between pressing L and R, you have to wait for at least 1 frame. You also want to be careful with your stray web shots as well, because they can induce a lot of lag if they're on the screen for too long. There are also a couple damage boosts in this stage that we're just opting out of because they can make the end of the level very scary.
I'm opting to pretty much avoid a lot of them. I'm still very new to this game, and I do apologize about that.
Did not get the web. Well, everybody has to start somewhere.
Sure. Okay,
All
I
right.
landed on that beetle in Toboggan. If you land on that beetle, you have a 3-frame window to make the jump, otherwise you go straight down the hole.
That is correct. So we're in Lemguins. Lemguins are these penguins that endlessly pop out of the ground, and they have the worst hitboxes in the game. They're terrible. That jump in particular can be very scary, because oftentimes you'll wind up sliding into either one or the other of those 2 penguins. You want to try to pick up the midway point in this level if possible, just because Solo Dixie makes this level extremely scary. This is another case of the reason why you want to do this level Solo Dixie is because the number of enemies on the screen induce quite a bit of lag, and you might actually notice it at the end. You do lose a little bit of time due to lag by having 2 Kongs, but it's very easy to take it at the end of that level.
Gonna be going for barrel skip here in a second.
Alright, you need silence?
Probably. I'm only gonna give it 1 try, though. If I can get up there, that is. Am I at the right spot? No, I'm not. Wow. Yeah, go me for paying attention. Now I'm in the right spot. Oh, I screwed it up. Oh well.
It's tough. So you might be wondering why I'm not doing Bleak Skip. So Bleak Skip is something that you can only do on the Japanese version. And the way it works is you want to die to Bleak and then pause the game on the same frame that the fade out would begin. But that is not an option for the US version. So now we're coming up on 6-1 Buzzer Barrage, which has my favorite movement in the game. It's one of those levels that I feel has one of the highest skill caps in terms of movement in this game. This just optimizing movement with Squawks the Parrot has just an incredibly high skill ceiling. That was wow, that was incredibly sloppy. At least, well, if I had to die somewhere, dying at the start of a level is usually pretty forgiving. But I'm actually gonna not swag out and just grab this barrel this time. It is actually faster to barrel skip there, but it can be very tricky. So this level, Buzzard Barrage, was clearly very, very well tested by Rare.
I can't tell if you're being sarcastic there or not.
I'm being very sarcastic.
Okay.
Bye, bees. So we take a deboost off of this copter. There's a lot of deboosts in this level as well.
You can get by a lot of bees in 6-1, and there's a couple of damage boosts as well, I believe you pick up along the way.
2, yes. Another one here, because there is a DK barrel coming up here. And coming up is one of the tougher B skips in the level because you don't have a wall to line up with. That was decent. A little slow, but I'll take it. You can lose a lot of time. You can lose a lot of time trying to fit in between the wall and the B there. This is not the fastest way to do this B skip, but it's the most consistent. And we're out. Now, considering the death, that was not too terrible.
Alright, I'm in Penguin stage, and I know I sound like a... I don't want to insult myself, but a blithering idiot when I say I don't see the problem with this stage. I truly believe this stage is actually very free, and it's actually a lot of fun to play through if you can get through a Dixie smooth enough.
Well, once you've run this game a few hundred times, you'll understand.
That was just about to point that out. Maybe I'm just too new, and I don't see what's so terrible about this stage, but I have a lot of fun with it.
The movement's definitely fun. It's just the Lemguin hitboxes can be very frustrating. Oh, by the way, time for the Burn Your Rope update. So what is the Burn Your Rope update this time?
I now see the problem with the Penguin stage. Yeah, I just ran right into the back of that penguin about maybe 5 feet from it.
So the Burn Your Rope update is Lemguins have terrible hitboxes, end of story.
100%.
I'm glad you could find out about that in the middle of a tournament race.
My very first tournament race.
Well, you got a lot of tournament races left to go. There's a lot of people in our group. So for those of you unaware of how the tournament is structured, there are groups of 8 people. Each person plays each other person in their group once, and then the top 4 from each group move on to brackets. Well, the level's pretty easy once you've done it a bunch of times. Confused Cliffs is a very hard stage your first time through the game. Oh, and I have to do this ending part as Kitty because I was too busy running my mouth and not busy enough paying attention to the game. Wonderful.
On the bright side, I got Snowman in 1 throw on the 3rd cycle.
Yes, even if you're just doing the intended snowball fight, Bleak can be a real jerk. But we're out of the level. We didn't die in an auto-scroller. Alright, so time for what I would say is probably the underwater stage with the best movement, Floodlit Fish. You're supposed to use these yellow big fish called Gleam and Breams to light your way through the stage, but that's slow.
Or as I like to call him, Mrs. Puff.
A little bit. But once you've practiced this level enough, the movement for it is just so satisfying. So what I'm going to try to do in these lurchin sections is there are certain sections where I'm going to release down on the D-pad for 1/4 of a second to offset the lurchin cycle, because if you try to go full speed through these lurchins, you will take damage.
I died in 6-1 the same way I did in practice.
Release for 6. Perfect. Perfect. That is exactly how that's supposed to look. Now, one thing you need to be very careful about is rounding that corner. If you round that corner too quickly, you'll go up the side of the reef instead of down, and the no on guard sign will still be loaded, so you can wind up flying upward from the no on guard right into a lurchin. And if you have one Kong, you're